Hello, the best. Recently, a video about the most anticipated games of 2023 was released on our channel. If you haven't watched it, follow the link at the top of the screen and add it to watch later so you don't miss it. Well, today is another top. We already know the best game of 2022. This title was given to Elden Ring at the Game Awards. So let's talk about the top 10 worst games of 2022 according to Metacritic. Thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more cool gaming videos.
10th place, Blade Runner Enhanced Edition, 52 points.
An enhanced port of a fairly good 1997 point-and-click sci-fi adventure game set within the same universe as the first Blade Runner film. This remaster was not the hit that the original was. In fact, it wasn't even as good as an unofficial port released for PC a few years ago. Critics and users complained about the new graphics and numerous glitches.
Finding anything positive about the new Blade Runner is almost impossible. The time-honored legend didn't age well in the remastered edition after 25 years, and perhaps it would be better if it remained only in our memories.
9th place, Kamiwaza Way of the Thief, 52 points.
A third-person action, stealth game places you in the role of Abizo, an honorable thief trying to survive on the streets of Mikado. The game, a remaster of a Japan-only 2006 title also released for Switch and PC, received a few positive reviews, but most critics felt that Kamiwaza didn't age well at all.
A fascinating glimpse into the twilight era of the stealth genre, but the outdated gameplay and awkward controls make it difficult to be all that nostalgic about it.
8th place, The Waylanders, 51 points.
An RPG with real-time combat set in two different eras in Galicia. This PC exclusive from Spanish studio Gato began as a Kickstarter project that cited Dragon Age, Origins, and Baldur's Gate as inspirations. But the Waylanders didn't come anywhere near the heights established by those titles, as a buggy launch turned into, well, a game that remains buggy to this day.
The Waylanders tries to imitate a variety of mechanics from leaders of the RPG genre, but fails to implement any of them effectively, while offering nothing original apart from the astonishingly poor dialogue.
7th place, The Last Oricru, 50 points.
A Souls-inspired, story-driven sci-fi action RPG title that follows an immortal warrior who crash lands on a medieval planet on the brink of war. The Last Oricru failed to impress reviewers who didn't appreciate the charms of its protagonist, the poor writing, and clunky gameplay.
The Last Oricru is a masterpiece of bad design. When a game has to warn its players not to invest in half the available skill points because they're worthless, you know you've got something special, and that's what Oricru is, special. It's so profoundly wrong it deserves to be studied, dissected, remembered for years. Its creators should tour universities and give talks about their artistic philosophies so future generations can learn how never to make a video game. If you told me aliens had developed it, I'd struggle to argue, such as the incomprehensible absurdity on display. I am in awe of such a marvel.
6th place, Zorro The Chronicles, 49 points.
An early patch eliminated some of the bugs, and its target audience is 6-12-year-olds. But even with those caveats, this humorous action game set in 1800s California and based on the animated TV series of the same name failed to bring delight to critics.
Zorro presents a game meant for young kids, but the developer underestimates a bit what the standard is these days. This makes only the youngest kids will get some fun out of it. For the rest, it's a disappointment. The game is too easy, does nothing special, and has little variation. There are also annoying bugs that make a game to avoid.
5th place, Lego Brawls, 46 points.
It's the first team action brawler set in the LEGO universe, and quite possibly the last, judging from the reactions from critics and gamers. The problem, it's a port of a mobile game that boasts few upgrades and shockingly little depth in its console form to justify a $40 price tag.
I really wanted to like Lego Brawls. It is such a cool idea. Sadly, the fact is, it is just a bad game. Not bad in an overly broken or offensive way. Bad because it seems to delight in mediocrity. Everything feels half-baked and half-realized, kind of like my 16-year-old's homework, and it means it quickly squandered any potential in the idea of a Lego Smash Bros.
4th place, XEL, 43 points.
A 3D, open-world platformer set in a mysterious world that blends sci-fi and fantasy elements. Zell may get a few points for visuals and its original story. But don't mistake Zell for Zelda, the former is so unpolished and frustrating that few gamers will have much fun playing it. And the problems aren't just on Switch, a PC version received similarly poor reviews.
I think there's a solid game here under all the technical issues, but it's hard to say. XEL's combat and time-based puzzles are satisfying, the setting and narrative are engaging, and it's aesthetically charming. But until those issues are addressed, XEL is largely unplayable. I've spent way more time dealing with those issues than I have playing the game. I'd like to revisit it in the future, assuming it gets fixed.
Third place, Babylon's Fall, 41 points.
The highest profile gaming dud of 2022, but somehow not quite the worst game of the year. Babylon's Fall is an all-new IP from Bayonetta Studio Platinum Games that blends RPG and hack-and-slash action in a fantasy world dominated by a giant tower. Reviews were ugly from the start, as ugly as Babylon's visuals, perhaps, and no one showed up to play it, resulting in an unusually quick termination. The publisher is shutting down Babylon's servers on February 27, 2023, rendering the online-only game unplayable.
From a dismal effort on the front of graphics, user interface, player onboarding, sound design, and essentially every other aspect of game design, Babylon's Fall is a failure. Games have bounced back from disastrous launches in the past, but in this case, I feel like it may be best to let sleeping dogs lie. The game's one and only saving grace is that Platinum Games truly are the kings of combat, and while Babylon's Fall is nowhere near the top of their collection of works, hacking and slashing your way through the Tower of Babel is at least, occasionally, kind of fun. It is just a crying shame that there is very little else to enjoy from the game. There isn't anything pretty to look at, nice to listen to, or easy to engage with.
Second place, CrossfireX, 38 points.
The latest entry in the globally popular 15-year-old shooter franchise. The Xbox-exclusive CrossfireX found publisher Smilegate enlisting Remedy Entertainment to deepen Crossfire's story and create a single-player campaign alongside Smilegate's own multiplayer portion, released as a free-to-play title like its predecessors. And how did that go? Oh my! PlayStation owners, you're not missing much.
CrossfireX gets little to nothing right, and I don't take pleasure in saying that. On a technical level, yeah, the graphics and frame rate and such aren't bad, but you won't get to enjoy them because I think you'll be too distracted with all of the other problems in the game. Voice acting, the script, the AI, controls, storytelling, the intensely lazy and generic feel of it all, the push for microtransactions. The game is asking players to overlook or otherwise deal with too much. Now, I am an optimistic and forgiving person by nature, but what Smilegate, Remedy, and Microsoft have done here is absolutely regrettable. This game has issues that even patching cannot fix, and I'm typically the first one to point out that games can often be much improved by patching. CrossfireX, though, has problems that run too deep and too broad, and I can't recommend this game to anyone.
First place, Postal 4, No Regerts, 30 points.
Metacritic's official worst game of 2022. Regerts. We've had a few, including reading anything about this violent FPS, a sequel to 2003's less terrible Postal 2. Emerging in April after a few years in early access with seemingly all of its bugs intact. Postal 4 is at least open about its terribleness. The pull quotes in its promotional materials are as bad as the one below. But even fans of the franchise's pure sense of humor weren't laughing about the new game's cheap and broken feel. Even Spellcheck hates this game.
Postal 4, No Regerts is devoid of humor and anything close to approaching fun or engaging mechanics. The only things it has in spades are constant technical issues that only compound the game's lengthy checklist of egregious shortcomings. There's nothing redeemable about this game. It's a genuinely awful experience that should be avoided at all costs.
So here is the top of the worst games of 2022 from Metacritic. Do you agree with the critics? And what game do you think was the worst this year? Write your opinion in the comments. You watch the NRD channel. I wish everyone to play good games. See you in the next video. Bye bye.